hearing aid wearer, and you tend to find not all, but a high percentage of hearing aid wearers can have wax impaction, and that's because the hearing aids inadvertently push the wax further in and they prevent the natural migration of wax because, of course, a hearing aid is in situ, it's inside your ear. We had to help the patient alongside their son to come into the room. They're already a bit unsteady anyway, and the added vertigo made them a bit... they lost a lot of confidence actually in themselves and just the day-to-day mobility and activities. And this is the right ear we're starting off with, and it's a severe, really immense, severe impaction. And you'll see, once I've cleaned the earwax out of the ear, the cartilaginous portion of the ear canal is quite narrow, and then the bony part of the ear canal is quite wide. And the majority of this wax and dead skin, there's all a bit of dead skin, it's impacted medially in the bony part of the ear canal. And because this wax plug is so solid, it's so hard, it's almost like stone, we're having to almost bring through a larger object through a narrow passage. It's almost like, imagine you're a basketball player and your basketball's bigger than the hoop and you're having to force it through the hoop. And similarly, we're trying to force this plug of wax out of the ear through a narrower passage, a narrow orifice. So it's a bit tricky. The patient also has a bit of otitis externa, externally, so the cartilaginous portion at least of the ear canal, a lot of dry skin flakes there. They had been using drops prior to attending. It did soften the surface of the wax, the lateral aspect of the wax that was facing us near the entrance. After that though, it was still a very hard plug. You can see I'm just trying to wriggle this through. I did use a forceps to help me as well to dissect it. The ear hook, and I was hoping that the ear hook, as I got in behind the wax plug and brought it forward, it would bring this out in one go, and unfortunately it didn't. The hook itself kind of cut through the wax, which did enable me then to go back in with a suction probe and suction the almost chiseled piece of the wax. So I've just gone back in with the ear hook again. You can see it's just cutting through, and it's not bringing it in one single piece, but nonetheless it is breaking it up to little chunks, which I can then go back in with the suction probe or the ear hook again, just to release it from the ear. Just see how dark this wax is, so we know it's been there for a while. So I'm just using a Jobson horn because it's got a larger surface area, I thought, as opposed to the hook, which is just cutting through this hard piece of wax. Although it is still quite hard, so it's almost like short crust pastry or shortbread. Although it's hard, it's crumbly almost. So when you're going with the hook, it is breaking it up. It's crumbling to pieces as opposed to remaining in a solid piece. So I thought a Jobson horn might help a bit because a larger surface area, and I can slowly bring out again the plug of wax and skin in one piece. But it didn't. It just came out into. It just retrieved a smaller piece of the wax out of the ear. So I've just gone back in with the suction probe. Here we've got a bit of keratin. So the idea is if I remove this keratin, because keratin sometimes to dead skin acts like double-sided sticky tape. Not only does it stick to the canal wall, but it also envelopes itself around the wax plug. And sometimes just by removing keratin, it loosens the plug. Could have used forceps, but I was already in there, so I just continued with the suction probe. So I've just gone back in with the hook. Now we're really, really deep into the ear now. I'm trying to get right in behind, and I'm slowly bringing the hook forward. You can see it's just cutting through, but nonetheless, that is better than nothing really, because by cutting the wax, it's almost chiseling into smaller pieces. We can then go back in with the suction probe, as you can see, and remove those chunks of wax that we've dissected. So once more, just going back in with the hook. I think we're nearly there now. There we are. So that's the largest piece of wax that we removed. So the eardrum is visible in the distance. I'm just going to mop up now all this softer wax. And you will get a perspective in a moment of this widened part of the bony part of the ear canal. At first I thought, is this keratosis obturans? Because keratosis obturans, one of the hallmarks of that is that it can cause an expansion of the bony part of the ear canal. But I wouldn't say that was really all skin. I think a lot of it was earwax with dead skin, you get this rubbery texture, and you can't always see that. You have to be in the ear manipulating the wax to be able to feel that texture. And I wouldn't say that was really rubbery. Of course, dead skin can get really hard and crusty itself, but I didn't see many ribbons in that wax plug. With keratosis obturans, it is dead skin ribbons, and it wasn't really apparent. So we're quite happy with that, and you can just see how wide the ear canal is. There is a bit of skin at the bottom of the ear canal. Just see if I can peel it off. I did remove a bit earlier. Now, again, just got to be careful. Sometimes less is more. The patient's quite dizzy, and don't invoke the caloric effect, which can sometimes happen. She was obviously at age as well, but she wasn't 100% still, so her head was moving a bit. So we just had to be careful. And I was at this point, I was thinking, this is fine. I'm happy with this. Just mopping up near the entrance and to the side. So this is where the bony part of the ear canal is. You can see the juncture, it widens. I was really pleased with that, and time will tell now whether the patient's vertigo has improved. They could certainly hear a lot better, and they were able to put their hearing aids back in without it whistling. So this is the patient's left ear. Now, when the patient attended, they said they felt the left ear was fine. They said that they've poked their finger in the ear, which they know they shouldn't have, but I don't want you guys trying this at home. It's pure luck. The patient said her fingernail had embedded into the wax, almost like an ear hook, and when she pulled the fingernail out, a big piece of wax came out. But as you can see, it's still quite blocked in there. Now, there is a lot more dead skin in here. You can see the skin ribbons externally. So again, is it keratosis obturans, is it wax? Sometimes it can be a mixture of both. This is probably more, if anything, resembles keratosis obturans than the right ear. But similarly to the left, there is a widening of the bony part of the ear canal. And again, we're trying to wriggle this through because it's a bit softer. There's a bit more give. And I was able to remove that, just block the tube. You can see there is a lot more dead skin here that's enveloped itself around the plug. And slowly but surely we're getting all this out. Now, to the end of this procedure, in a moment, the patient did start developing a bit of a caloric effect. So I decided just to leave the ear as it was. I was happy. The blockage is gone. The patient's... So if the vertigo is to be alleviated by cleaning the ear, this is more than enough. The patient has got some treatment for their otitis externa already from their GP for all the dry skin. You can see there's some thick skin here at the bottom. Just want to see if I can peel this. I think the patient did develop the caloric effect. I'll let you know at which moment. So the caloric effect is when we suction, it reduces the ear temperature. Each ear has the organ of balance, which is the semicircular canals. We call that the vestibular system. The organ of balance can be affected by pressure change and temperature change. And when you suction the ear, it reduces the ear temperature, which inhibits the function of the balance organ in this ear. And therefore, when the organ of balance is inhibited, it's sending less messages to the brain in comparison to the opposite ear, which then tricks your brain into thinking it's moving to one side, but when actually the patient's not. The patient's sat still, which then causes the eyes to try and correct the brain, and we get severe vertigo. We call that the caloric effect. So I'm just doing some close-up shots of the wax, and that's just off the right ear. You can see just how dark it is. So I hope you enjoyed that video.